Hey guys, Blackbart here, bringing you a kind of weird build, borderline support build for the Ranger class ish. Um, it was inspired by Red Rum or Murder, another Twitch streamer whose information I will leave down in the comments, so you can check out his variation. And it just kind of inspired me to build a support build that uses as much freeze and as much stasis and weakness and any other things I can throw in there, aside from the damage ticks, as possible to help keep mobs from doing damage at the higher ranks. So we'll get straight into it. We'll jump straight into the passive skill tree. You can see this is kind of an odd little makeup. We're going to start off going through agility to pick up some attack speed, which is always good, plus works well here. Going in through status ailment towards power of the first men. This gives us a chance to apply multiple stacks of ailment stacks, which are wonderful. Let's make them last longer and then add up to 5 more stacks. Then we come over here going through the wisdom portion of this to be able to get up to your ranger spec. And this also gives us some ailment chance, which is wonderful as well as some wisdom, which all adds towards every one of those ailment stacks. So in here, the really important nodes are the kind of close range pierce of the projectiles, as well as the multiple projectiles. And then these other two for knockback are just really for survivability and pushing really scary shit in the corner. This one, not so much, although it does kind of help you do some damage, so that's a nice little bonus. But it's not really there for that. We're really going down here for the knockback effect. So it's pretty easy when you come here, and you can see because we're splitting between willpower and agility, we're going to do the same thing, in the attributes here. I really put in just enough wisdom to get up to about 40% chance on your stasis, weakness, and shaded, which are your occult skills, so that we can spread those ailments specifically as well as possible. And then the rest of it goes into agility, and this gives us dodge chance as well as attack speed, which are the attack speed's more for applying the ailments, and then dodge is obviously to live, because we don't have very much health in this build. So your main stuff is avoidance. So stay away from the danger. Moving on towards the skills here, I have them in kind of order of no order. Mark of Impunity is really just to help out the group kill stuff. You're going to have the same two that are on everybody's Mark of Impunity, which is going to be to deal the damage from its death and then spread to the things that it hits. It's just in everybody's stuff. The next up is going to be your Arrow's Whale. And this is really just to apply the status ailments immediately when you get up to the next group, and it applies it to a bunch at the same time. It's really good for that, so you're going to want to reduce the cooldown so it's up quite often. And then add a slowing effect, so you just increase even more the chances of slowing things down and keeping them away from you. Because in the higher stuff, the more you can keep away from you, the better. Next up, I've been kind of messing around with Phantom Blades in case you have problems with Rage initially. You really shouldn't, but with the Phantom Blades, I've gone with the increased area effect to get the bigger blades, and then the projectile swirl. I'm still doing tests with this. I'm not sure it's that effective, but if you kind of have an oh crud moment and you need to mark a bunch of stuff to slow them all down, that's a good thing to use. Then lastly is going to be Havoc Orb. We want to spread out as many projectiles as possible because we don't care about our damage. We're just a support class. And then increase the slowing effect on everything because that is the name of the game. Aside from that, you're going to be using a lot of your main, your auto attack ability. And then I'm still trying to weigh whether or not one or two of these would be best, but health pot might be okay there. Although with our gear, we won't really have any problems. We'll either get one shot or not. Now the gear is pretty specific on most things, so you are going to want to have some leech in your gear somewhere in this one of your body sockets. The other sockets you're going to want to stack any number of things, but dodge chance is a good thing to stack. Force shield is a good thing to stack. Things that give you more effective HP. Just nothing too specific here, but you can see on these I've kept these on not necessarily for the damage, but for the agility. And they have a decent amount of health compared to everything else. The shoulders I have on here for the heals, not really for anything else. I don't really have any problems with rage production, so this is not really necessary outside of that, but it does keep me alive, so that's definitely helpful. Nothing else really specific on here. Wisdom is always good. Toughness is always good. Agility is always good. Ferocity is not really going to help us in any of these situations, so any of those. I mean, this one had 2 sockets on it, so that's the only reason why I have it there. But yeah. Then we get into the jewelry. You see on here, this has nothing that helps us aside from a socket and wisdom. You can have agility in here. You want sacred damage, aether damage, or shadow damage, 2 attacks if that exists. I haven't seen it yet on a neck piece with a socket. You want to steer clear of fire damage and lightning damage and rend damage and what's the last one? Toxic damage, because they do a damage dot that slows down the whole server. And it doesn't do that much damage at the higher levels, so unless you're playing solo, that would be the only time I would ever use that. And you're generally not going to be playing a support class solo. So anyway, so really the only effective thing on here is the socket and the wisdom on it. Nothing else really matters. I didn't have any good rings with sockets on them that didn't have like fire damage on them, so I would like to replace this at the very least with one of these that has wisdom on it, and that's really the only reason why it's on there. And effective health, leech. I mean, I guess I can get rid of this and swap it out since I have this ring on, but it doesn't really matter too much. But you do want sockets, and in those sockets you want I forgot to pull this off and figure out what thing it was. Amethyst, the weird one that I never pick up. You want to put amethyst in all your support sockets if you have the sockets available, and that's just to increase your occult status ailments, which increases all 3 of your major ailments that we're trying to stack, being shaded, weakness, and stasis. O'Malley's is actually a really good placement for this because it has status ailment chance score, dodge chance score, and all abilities, or all attributes rather. They're really good stats. They're kind of hard to beat on regular items, so use those. They're easy to get. Then we get to the weapons, which are super important, and they're kind of hard to find, but they're not hard to find at the same time. You can get lucky. You want to find at least one with 2 sockets on it that has frost damage on it, and preferably not lightning damage. You preferably want no other damage on it. Ailment chance score would be wonderful, but nothing else really matters. Attack speed is actually pretty decent too, but again, it's not super important. The important part is having 3 sockets between your 2 weapons. You see on this one I have no damage added, because I don't really care about my damage. But we want one of each of the sockets, so you're going to have sapphire in there, you're going to have a silver stone, and you're going to have the other one. Damn it, always forget their names. Aetherite. And that'll help us apply those status ailments that we were talking about before. So the whole point of this is to stack stasis, which slows the movement of your target as well as their abilities. So their abilities are slower as well. Weakness reduces how much damage they do and reduces their resistances. Then shaded spreads it to an amount of other targets. So these three together just help you lock down groups. So let's demonstrate what this looks like. And we'll do this in a crazy level for most people, Champion 2, just to kind of demonstrate exactly what this is doing. You might not want to run in their ants. So you can see here, I have these guys super slow. I have them super weak. And ooh, buddy. This is on Champ 2. These guys are pretty much locked down. I'm not sure that's any better. But you can see I'm freezing, I'm slowing. Look at this guy's reaction time here. He can't even do anything. He can wreck ants then. Ooh. The more you knock back as well, the more you'll interrupt them. Great way to end the video there, but that's the basic idea. Is you lock down as much as possible, you knock them back, you get them back in the corners. If you're not fighting stuff on both sides of you, it works very effectively. Keep them all together, keep casting Arrow's Wail because it procs all of those, trying to freeze that target, trying to interrupt it as much as possible, spreading stasis to everything else. Keep this up because then they'll move super slow aside from if they decide to jump, and you can just consistently keep these things up. And really honestly, it's probably, I'm not going to say it's the only way to push to like Champion 2, Champion 3, up higher up in this range, but it is very, very, very helpful to have one of these in your group. Like I said, Red Rum has a different version of it that we used effectively to get to here that inspired me to make this build here. And I'm not going to say that mine is more effective. It's kind of, they're both support builds and they both do very, very, very similar things. But either way, it's extremely effective to have these in a 4-man group. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just kind of thinking of ideas that are completely outside of what a lot of other people are doing. I mean, you have the basic stuff that people are going through, but it's always nice to see these kind of builds kind of start to crop up. And I'm excited. I'm glad that Red Rum allowed me to kind of make a build around this and put out a video. So you guys have a good one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.